I, like many people, like Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't need to explain it to you, it's everywhere at this point. And one way I like to express my love for the silly bear game is through cosplays. I've seen lots of people make amazing costumes, whether it be humanized versions or full suits that are game accurate. And I was so fascinated by all these costumes, to the point where I wanted to become one of them. Now, if I were to cosplay as someone, I would have to choose a character, obviously. And if you saw the thumbnail, you probably have a good idea on what character I'm making. I will be cosplaying as one of the main 4 horsemen of FNAF characters in the series, that being Bonnie. Glamrock Bonnie, to be exact. I wasn't planning to do the version where he got beaten to dust like we see in Ruin, just the version before anything happened. However, this is a bit of an FYI. I do have a handful of crafting experiences on my belt, that being where I've customized plushes, dolls, made jewelry, etc. But I have never worked with craft foam before, nor have I made a full suit costume before, so this is a bit of a first time for me. As much as I may be a newbie to this, these 2 YouTubers have made amazing Five Nights at Freddy's costumes and created a couple of very informative tutorials that were a great help. And I highly suggest you watch them if you need a tip or 2 on your own costume journey. Alright, that's enough yapping for the intro. Let's actually get into the video.
Let's go!
One of the most important things to start with a costume is a base. Bases are quite literally everywhere if you think about it. Like if you want to decorate a cake, you'll need to bake the cake itself. Or if you want to make a house, you'll need a wooden base. At the time, I was figuring out what type of foam I was going to use. I bought the EVA foam first, but a 20-inch roll of EVA foam was only just barely enough for 2/15 of the costume, and EVA foam is quite pricey. So I went ahead and stuck with upholstery since it's just cheaper and it comes in large amounts. To cut myself some slack, I started with making the legs first, just to see what I was getting myself into with this project. I took the EVA foam and made a tube. Then I cut a triangle in between both thighs for more mobility. Once my upholstery foam arrived, I added some knees made out of the foam, and it ended up looking something like this. It's as shrimpable as that. So good job, me, you did a good job. Have a sticker. Jokes aside, there was this one issue that would reoccur throughout the project. I used hot glue as an adhesive, and I wanted the costume not to have any bumps from hot glue piling up or uneven edges appearing. Unfortunately, nothing is ever easy in the land of cosplay. I need to put together 10 tubes in order to complete this costume. And it would take me at least 30 minutes to create a 12-inch tube because I had to directly apply the glue on the other side of the foam for it to connect with the other. But it would be so long because of the lack of ventilation for the glue to dry with. I could have just bought a stronger adhesive like contact cement or some kind of adhesive spray, but I've heard those things can be quite the hassle to work with, and you might even need to wear a mask. And since I'm a coward, I stuck with the glue gun instead. And I already know what you're gonna say. I could have just 3D printed it out like everybody else is doing. But I don't have a 3D printer, and commissioning someone to print a full suit costume is way over budget for me. Anyway, thank you for coming to my mini TED Talk about foam and its mixed relationships with hot glue. After that trauma dump, next on the list was the leg warmers. Bonnie's leg warmers are in a triangular shape that folds into the knees and extends to the end of the legs. I made a C-like shape, then connected it together like you would do with making a party hat, which for some reason made a weird bump at the top. I tried my best to get rid of it, but it already made itself at home. If any foam wizards out there know what happened here, feel free to tell me in the comments or something, cause I'm kind of curious. Nothing else interesting happened from what I can recall while making these leg warmers, so I'm just gonna move on to the feet. I bought a pair of shoes for the feet so it could be used as a base to build off of. For some reason the brand I bought from gave me 2 pairs when I asked for 1. I mean, okay. To put it in simple terms, I got the shoes and used some extra EVA foam I didn't use for the bottom base, doused some glue onto it, slapped some more foam onto it, and until then it would look like a giant slip-on sandal. I collected some foam squares that are 3 inches thick and trimmed them down just for them to be glued onto the foot. And now I got some big-ass costume feet that look like clown shoes. Yippee! With the legs finished, we're gonna move on to the next big thing, the torso. I made a capital I-S kind of shape. which will fold itself together to make a little torso.
I haven't realized how hard it was to take the torso on and off, and whenever I put it on, there would be a massive chance of tearing whenever I had to bring my arms through. So that was a fun glue fest.
Everything else went relatively smooth while making this piece. Same for the pelvis, so I don't think I'll make this into some kind of long lecture. But this part was a nightmare. At this point, I just ran out of foam. The type of foam I used was 1 inch thick. And when I was looking around on Amazon, I saw the dimensions of the foam and saw it said 2 times in size. And I assumed it was in length and bought it, not knowing it actually meant thickness. I begun on the stomach, but it was super hard to shape it due to the thickness of the foam. With this issue in the way, the only easy way out of this was a difficult way, and that was to trim the thickness in half. Also, here's what it looked like halfway through. This took 1.5 hours to work on. And when I say 1/4 of my room looked like a crime scene, I am not joking. I had to change clothing because I was covered in foam scraps. I thought I would simply just cut the foam in half and call it a night. But the foam had other plans, I guess. After that whole mess, the stomach was just another tube that was complete. We now just focused on the arms, which is just another bunch of tubes, so I won't waste your time. Trimmed the foam down to be arm shaped, separated them into 2, cut a chunk into the upper arm to make an armpit for more flexibility, trimmed both forearm and upper arm to be less blocky, and doubled them to make another arm. And yeah! We're now gonna move on to one of my favorite parts of this costume. One of them being the articulated hands. The Glamour animatronics have arms that extend longer than mine, which meant I had to make large hands for accuracy. At first I was quite intimidated by these hands as I never got into cosplay related puppetry before, but I came to realize that they aren't that hard to create. What I did was create a base of the palm and fingers, added these little rings to each and every finger part, then made more rings but for my own hands. And this is where the fun part starts. You get the hand and wrap some strings around the rings on the fingers. Then you grab the independent rings and glue the strings to the rings together. It's hard to explain, but what happens is that when you pull the string down, the finger will bend due to the string pulling against the connected rings, which will result in an articulated hand. This part was super fun to do, but I'm not sure if using cardboard for some parts was a good idea, as a ring did fall off. At least one of my cats seemed to really like it. With the hands up and ready to wear, there was only one last piece to complete the space: the head. Same with the hands. I was quite nervous about making this because the head is the absolute pinnacle in these kind of costumes. I grabbed a long slice of foam, then cut evenly shaped triangles out of the foam. This will turn into a tube, which will also allow the triangles to turn into a head-shaped base, perfect for shaping it into whatever you'd like. I prepared my materials and got ready for one of the most scissor-heavy parts. I snatched a small slab of foam and carved it down, then applied it to the head to give it more of a circular shape to it. Then I threw on an egg-like kind of shape of foam right in the middle for the snout. After stabbing out some eyes into the head, the upper head was finished, leaving the ears to complete. Where's the jaw? Well, you see, the jaw will be a separate piece, as the mouth will be the small, narrow window I will be seeing out of. Since it was just another carve fest, I won't bore you to death with what you already expect, and move on to the interesting part, that being the ears. I wanted a 3-dimensional look on the inner ears, so I trimmed the inside of the ear and added cardboard inside. Now that I think about it, that sounds really gruesome when put out of context. The thing is, whenever I put it on, the cardboard will put weight onto the ears, which made the ears awkwardly bend back. It looks weird, but no cosplay is perfect. The head base and everything else was complete, and I now did not have to look like a headless horseman. And that left only the fabric and the details the final thing to work on. I wanted a stretchy and plastic looking kind of fabric, just to give it the illusion of looking like plastic. And I would like to say to FNAF cosplayers and fursuit makers, I get it now. Fabric is one of the most stressful parts of the costume. It was tedious, and I got way too many burn blisters. I won't explain everything I did with the fabric, as it's all just laying the fabric down and gluing it down inch by inch, which will lead to the final point, the final touches. I returned back to using EVA for the shawl? Cape thingy? Weird blue collar? I don't know what it is, but all I had to do was just bend the foam to whatever the hell the shape is. Another fun part was painting a new pair of eyes. The materials I used in the eyes are considered to be the absolute godsend of Five Nights at Freddy's cosplay. That being DIY Christmas ornaments, which are perfect bases to paint with shaky hands. And everything else is just tiny details that I made out of a multitude of materials. And after 3.5 months of work, the semi-accurate Glamrock Bonnie costume was finally complete and ready to showcase. I had so much fun making this, and I wasn't just dressing up in some stupid rabbit costume for no reason. I actually went to Fan Expo Denver 2024 with it, which was 4 months ago. God, bro. Hey, school and an animation side project do not mix well together. I tried working on this video as much as I could whenever I could. Jokes aside, it was such a universal experience dressing up and talking with others who had similar interests with me and taking photos with me. Like, if you were there and talked to me, I just want to say I am so extremely grateful for you guys. I have never had 9 people ask for a photo of me in one day. I actually planned this costume from the start of summer 2023, but didn't physically start until March 2024. All because I was scared. And if you were like me and thought, man, this character is so cool, and I want to make it into a costume, but I don't know if I have the skill. Get your head out of the gutter! You can do anything with costumes, even if you don't have the skill. With enough research and time, you can create the biggest costume ever. I started off making miniatures and keychains, and then this mess. And if I can do it, so can you. Unless you're financially unstable. Then I don't know, because cosplay is kind of expensive.